Okay, so ladies first. So, love you start for us.
Hi, thank you once again for the opportunity. Greetings to all the lovely people sitting here and my bosses sitting here. My name is Biakete. I'm the Executive Director for the Age Foundation and double as the CSO's platform convener with the SDGs. So, Kalia creates awareness on the SDGs from Goal 1 to Goal 17. And my target group are young people, women, girls, children, and persons living with disabilities. How to create a safe space for these people to also develop when it comes to participation as well. So basically, that's what I do, and I'm grateful for being here, and I'm glad I'm going to learn a lot from all of you. Thank you very much.
And then we also have the president of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, the Political Science Department. Okay.
Hello? Yeah, so my name is Maxwell Bigani, and I currently serve as the technical climate advisor to the Secretary General, Mr. Benin Ahmed of BYU, which is the Pan African Union. I am also open advocate. If I talk about open, I work mostly in the tech space, Wikipedia, creating commons and all that. I also co-lead on a project called the Young Green Entrepreneurs, and yeah, so I think that's what I'll say for now. I'm also a climate lover and a climate student, and maybe as the conversation goes on, a lot more will come. Thank you very much. And I'm also a product of K University.
Can you handle the department?
Yeah, so Department of Theoretical, and so for my first degree, I was in the Department of Theoretical and Applied Biology, and then the second degree was in the Department of Educational Studies.
So you get the direction of the discussion, right? Fine. Okay, so you can also go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Maxwell Donko and I'm the founder executive director. I serve as the founder and director of World Inspiring Network, a non-profit organization with a mission to end poverty through education, youth empowerment, and women empowerment. When we started in 2016, I'm focused on to educate people because myself, I never dreamt of getting to high school. But through the help of people, I've been able to pass through to university, and then I decided to give back. So far, we've been able to support over 90 students. And our first two batch, which is two people at the senior high school. Our hope is to help them to finish or graduate their tertiary level until they get a job or become entrepreneurs. I also run an IT firm called Ziben Digital. We specialize in web development, we do digital marketing and corporate branding, and also doubles as the Yale Community Advisor to the International Trade Center. I am also a product of Pentecost University, where I studied logistics and supply chain management.
When you listen to PUC 1, UCC Legon, and all the rest, nail. Okay, so Mr. Arnold, if you wrap it up for us.
Yeah, so I already shared a little bit about my story. But let me just mention one thing that inspired me to start 10 Billion Strong a few years ago. Just raise your hand if you're a parent in here. Does anyone have kids? Maybe not many people, but are there any parents who have kids? Couple folks. What? Okay. So the reason I ask is I have two daughters. They're 7 and 4, and my wife was pregnant with my second daughter. I started to imagine the world in which they would inherit from our generation, my generation, and it wasn't looking good. And so I wanted a life for them that was as good as I've had it and as good as my family has had it. And so I just really felt like it was worth working for something for future generations. That's been my inspiring story for doing all of this.
Okay, thank you very much. Very inspiring. So maybe we'll start our discussion on that platform. So we see that for 10 billion strong, quite interesting a name. But I understand the idea is that you are envisioning that by the time the population gets to 10 billion, young people within the world should get to a certain level of entrepreneurial and leadership. So can you tell us, what have you seen or what do you see is the role of young people in entrepreneurship and environmental leadership that is inspiring the work you are doing with 10 billion strong?
Yeah, so the name 10 billion strong is a reaction to this sense of maybe concern that we will have too many people in the world. And I think the genesis of it is really problematic. And I think it's not right for anyone to say the future generation should have children, the future generation should have what past generations should have. So we're thinking about, instead of reframing it as a negative, we can think about it as we're 8 billion people right now. If we have 2 more billion people, and that's probably where we'll peak as a population, that's 2 billion more creative minds. That's 2 billion more people who can be thoughtful about the change. They can invent new things. And largely that's going to happen in this region of the world and in South Asia and Southeast Asia. These are going to be the new drivers of innovation. And so one of my mentors, when I was getting started with 10 Billion Strong, said, as you're thinking about where to work and who to work with, go to where the energy is. Go to where people show up. And what I found is, in Ghana in particular, in Africa in general, and lots of different parts of Asia, young people are doing things differently and not saying, we're going to do things the same way as the past generation. So what I've seen in terms of innovation, ecopreneurship, and leadership is a lot of young folks who say, we want to create a world that's a little bit different. We have some ideas and it's our turn. And I say, absolutely, go for it.
I believe you are taking the point from the submissions. So tell us, based on that, what are some of the opportunities out there for young people to harness? For your experience in working with young people in Asia, Europe, Africa, tell us what are some of the opportunities out there for us to harness? Yeah, Mr. That's just wrapping up for us.
Yeah, I was just thinking, what I really want to say to folks is, the opportunities that are going to be most valuable are the ones that you feel like you have this inherent connection to personally solve. And so you've got to figure out what is the intersection of your passion, your skills, your talent, your network, and what people want and what is going to reward you. Entrepreneurship is simple, but it's not easy. So it's simple in which you basically just have to create value for other people, create something that people want, whether it's a product or a service, and that it can span, so many different sectors, so many different things. But it's hard because you have to figure that out, and preferences are always changing. So the opportunities that I feel like you will be exposed to are the opportunities that you feel like you are uniquely positioned to solve, and then go out and do it.
So on the note of entrepreneurship, ecopreneurship is hard. Mr. Maxwell Benjamin, can you share with us briefly, from your perspective as an advisor, a climate advisor to the Pan-African Youth Union Secretary General, how can we ensure inclusiveness?
Okay, thank you very much. And talking about inclusion, one of the tests that have discussed at the Pan-African Youth Union, we have a climate working group, is to use the JESI model, which is gender and social inclusion, where we are looking at having a balance in all what we are going to do. So, for example, we launched the Green Leaders Academy with 10 billion strong, and one of the things that we looked at with the first cohort was to have women or female, then male as well, but then it should be a balance. So preference was given to, during the selection, preference was given to women because in the open space, we realized that all the narratives have always been written from a man's perspective. So for us to make it more inclusive, we should also give females or women the voice as well. So that was one of the parameters for inclusion. And also, we did a little behind the scene or due diligence on how we could include people with living with disabilities to also partake in such a program that we are going to do. And going forward, we are also looking at, to make it more inclusive, how we can streamline the francophones, because we roll out this program basically on the English cohort. So we want to look at how we can diversify to make it very inclusive, and also, if possible, to localize the content for. But there's one beautiful thing about 10 billion curriculum that we use for the cohort. After you go through the 15 model, to make it inclusive, each leader has the autonomy to adapt and adopt, to use it in their local setting. Now, what that means is that if I graduate as a leader, or if I graduate through the cohort, I can equally implement it and use it in my locality, even if it's possible to use the local languages. And when you run a project like that, at the end of the day, you realize that everybody is included and everybody, it's also voice will be heard. So that is one of the things that we are looking. And let me just add to that, it's a process. So we are still looking at the best practices to use behind I spoke about the Jesse. So after the Jesse, what else can we do to make it more inclusive? So it's a process, and then we want to get, we want to co-curate with everyone. We are also ready for ideas in terms of inclusivity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're still on the subject of inclusiveness, but I'm not. Okay, so as the Executive Director of Unveiling Foundation, focusing on sustainable development goals and youth sustainability, how have you ensured inclusiveness in your initiatives?
Thank you. Let me just use 60 seconds to do this. Imagine your eyes are closed and an earthquake just happened. But getting to your point, you were safe with your eyes closed. Or imagine living in a very dirty environment, people falling sick, and you are also about to die. Then you get a second chance to make something different, to change your environment. What would that be? So for us at Unveiling, we use the World Cafe approach for our stakeholder mapping. We look at the problems, the issues around us, who are the critical stakeholders, and we engage them. So with the World Cafe approach, you bring diverse stakeholder groups on the same issue, knowing their perspective on that issue. So during the design process, you design the process with them. When it comes to the actions, the solutions to those problems, you let them design it with the notion that we sometimes always assume for people. We always assume solutions for people, and that at the end of the day, those are not what the people want. Those are not the requirements of the policy they want. But if the people design their solution, so you see them actively in it. So I'm grateful for this platform because it's a platform for young people, and we are engaging them based on their interests, what they have to offer. So that's one of the approaches we use in our organization. And we also have to ensure that there is gender inclusion or gender transformativeness, like our brother shared. So what we do is that we map out our stakeholders. For example, most of the time, the people we leave behind are persons living with disability. We have a lot of youth who have disabilities, and we leave them out of our policy designs. So in our inclusion, you need to do your stakeholder mapping. Who are the critical stakeholders like I've earlier shared? And what are the parameters? What are the development parameters for all your stakeholders that you are bringing on board? At the end of the day, you should have an ideal product or service that is very effective and efficient. Thank you.
Thank you. So Mr. Donko, I understand Young Ecopreneur Awards is coming on, or it's already happened.
We are planning on hosting it on the between the 28th to 30th of October.
Oh.
The date is not confirmed anyway. 30th of October.
Okay, and I understand some of the finalists includes one from Ghana and I think one from Egypt. Is that right?
Then I think it's not the same program we are planning.
For the E community.
For the E community, yes, but the one we are working on is to give an opportunity for the youth. So it's something that we are yet to open nominations for the youth to apply. Then we'll select the best 30. The best 30 are going to be given 2 weeks to implement a project. Then within that 2 weeks, we'll now stream it to the best 10. Then the best 10 will be given the opportunity to pitch on the last day of the event. Then they are all going to receive some form of awards. There is cash prizes and then other awards also that follows.
Anyway, that's it by the way, but I believe we've taken note of that. And then, to my main question for you, how can young people utilize technology and digital platforms to promote youth inclusiveness in entrepreneurship? What are your views on that?
So the youth can utilize social media or let's say digital platforms, and one of them, as I'm saying, is social media. Now, most of us are on TikTok. We do a whole lot of things. Some are relevant, some are not relevant. Let me put it in quotes. But we should also look at the fact that climate change is an urgent issue that needs urgent actions. And as a matter of fact, we can make use of social media, TikTok, to educate a lot of people. We can also use YouTube and other social media handles to educate people. We also have an opportunity for the youth to create community around their social media. So if you are saying that you are an ecopreneur, one of the best things you have to do is to create a platform where you bring like-minded people together, you plan together and then take actions. And then another thing young entrepreneurs or young people can also do is to create softwares, let's say softwares or mobile apps that can also fight climate change and also help us to reduce the challenges we are having today in terms of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, coming back to you, Mr. Maxwell, from Maxwell to Maxwell.
Yeah.
Okay, so with your expertise in STEM, science, technology, innovation, and open education and entrepreneurship, how can young people blend their studies whilst making significant impacts on the environmental sustainability? And what strategies do you recommend for effectively balancing academic pursuits? Because the gathering here are usually students, and then at the end of the 4 years, and then 2 years of postgraduates, and then the others gathered here, they expected to produce results. And as Mr. Arnold mentioned earlier, that this field is hard. Yes. So how today, what are the strategies? What do you recommend to combine academic pursuits and then entrepreneurship leadership?
Okay, so one of the things that I learned very early in life, but I'm just using early life as it. So Mr. Ahmed Bennett, working with him taught me something. It's all about prioritization. What do you prioritize? What is on top of the list? Often, our educational system, I am also an educator, so I understand some of these issues. Our education system is such that if you don't take care, by the time you are off school, you realize you don't know anything. The very day I graduated so I did biological science. The first day I graduated, I went home and a colleague just asked, Max, just name 3 courses that you did in school. And for 5 minutes, I was trying to recall. How many of us can relate? Good. So I have this. Okay, good. Good. So after he asked that question, I started to rethink about what education really means, and that pushed me further to do my second degree in education to understand some of these issues that comes with education and how we can learn. I was very privileged to be a part of an organization when I was in the university, and that organization actually built me better and I'm saying this on record, that organization built me better than a 4 year of study. And that organization is called ISEC. I don't know if any of you here are members of ISEC. So as my colleagues were in school, I was still learning though, but then I realized very early that most of the things, the corporate world, the outside world aspect in the school. So ISEC gave us, as a second year in the university, I was going for marketing course, I was learning how to write proposals. So when I was in final year, most of my colleagues would come, and I had already developed, but yet again, as I was developing myself in leadership, entrepreneurship, and all that, I was still taking my studies very serious, because at the end of the day, you go through the schooling system and then you'll be asked, where's your certificate? Even if you are not going to use your certificate, think of it as the priority of you being in the school. Get your certificate. Whatever you do, make sure you balance with learning. But then it also comes with passion. I saw my passion very early through ISEC, developing it, and all. I was running through. My weekends were always packed as a student. Sometimes I'll skip class. I'm not saying do it, but sometimes I'll skip class just to attend meetings, go for conferences. Second year, I was in Kumasi organizing conferences in Accra. I would come very tired, Monday go for class, Tuesday, Thursdays, I'm organizing projects, I'm doing. So all those things that I was doing built me. So as I completed school, I had a lot of skills that people didn't have. And most of my colleagues come to me, and then, so it's all about prioritization. Whatever course, whether you selected the course or the course was selected for you, please, as far as you are here, just make sure you kill it, nail it, all right? Don't be a failure. It is not wrong to fail, all right? Hello? It is not wrong to fail, but if you are failing, feel right. It's very important to feel right. So just make sure you get your certification, put in effort, because do not think, and I'll conclude on that, do not think that university or studying is hard. After the 4 years, when you enter into the corporate world, you realize that if you had mastered that 4-year journey by learning, it will be easier for you outside. Hello? I can see people are looking at this like, am I speaking in a different language? So I'm saying it again. Do not think that 4 years of study or university is hard. If you leave school, you are going to study the course called life. And it will hit you at all angles. So better study it here so that when you are out of school or out of study, and again, education doesn't end. So kill yourself, go through the process, the rigorous process of the educational system you have, whether you like it or not. Just go through the process. Balance it with whatever activities that you are doing. Pick up courses, do things outside your study. I was doing biological science, but I was reading books on business. I was reading books on IT. Some of the things most of you here, I've seen some places we met during a tech conference, and I was facilitating on that. So these are all things that I built along the way. So that's all that I've seen. Prioritization, go through the process, be ready to fail, but even as you are failing, be wise in failing. Thank you.
Okay, so let's come back to the strong man in the house, the father of the 10 million strong, Mr. Hannah. With your experience in developing global education programs, building partnerships with various organizations, and then also on the foundation that Ms. Maxwell has laid, can you share with us how young people can position and then reposition themselves to make significant impact in the field of entrepreneurship whilst blending their studies?
Yeah, that's a really good question because I think, as Max was just saying, there's so many different priorities, right? There's studies, there's family, there's trying new things, clubs, things like that. My advice on that point, how can you make some progress as students, is take small steps, set some goals for yourself over, say, a year-long period. Think about if you want to develop some skills in entrepreneurship, what can you do within a year period, and then work backwards to come up with a good plan, and have some accountability for yourself. Share it with a friend, share it with a mentor or a peer. There's something that we teach people in our entrepreneurship training sometimes. We call it a personal board. So like a nonprofit organization like Green Africa Youth Organization or 10 Billion Strong, we have a board of directors, but you're just an individual. Who's your board of directors? And so what you can do is have some people who could be your mentors or your peer advisors, have them be your board of directors, try to work with them to make some commitments, and think about some experiments that you can make. Our expectations for students when they're launching ecopreneurship projects is not that they're going to necessarily change the world in the first year or maybe even the first couple years, but what we want them to do is to develop the skills that would later position them to make significant change. So think incrementally and also think long term, and then you can be really surprised what you can accomplish. And I often tell people something that resonates with me is we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in a year and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10 years. So if you have this vision, just keep working on it and you'll gradually accumulate all the skills. Start small, keep persisting, and you'll develop awesome stuff and you can really make great progress.
Start small, keep developing, and then you can surely, or you will surely make big progress. Okay, so Madam Lovia, on that note, we would like to also hear from you with your experience in data visualization, corporate governance, and social service. I actually emphasized on the school part to highlight on the fact that most of the people who are trailblazers within the field of ecopreneurship, actually had to start from somewhere and combine so many other things. But Madam Lovia started from political science, and she's now within this area. Maxwell started from TAB, Theoretical and Applied Biology, and then now within tech, ecopreneurship. And so the list goes on and on. So just for us to get a fair idea that wherever you find yourself and wherever you are, and sometimes I say that if I'm not mistaken, we would have majority of Eco Club members being science students, true or false? Yes. So the political scientists are coming, they are taking over your space. So the earlier we wake up, the better. Thank you. So Madam Lovia, as I was saying, with your experience, how can young people leverage skills like these to drive environmental entrepreneurship? And what advice would you have? I believe that we have here young people who have ideas that are starting off, and some are within their waiting period, still picking up bits and pieces. For those within that waiting period, what advice do you have for them?
Thank you once again. And this is my advice, first of all, to young people. Take life very seriously. The reason why that is, I remember back in tertiary, I planned getting first class. And I worked hard towards it. I focused towards it. By the end of the day, I didn't get the first class. I didn't know. On the day of graduation, when my name was mentioned on the stage, I got the book, I was looking for my name as part of the first class in this. My name wasn't there. First disappointment. And I had team members who I worked with, who I even taught. Some I even mentored, and they all had first class. So imagine, and I told them, oh, I had first class. Because I earlier checked my results before the other results were displayed in the book. So they mentioned my name. I was like, hey, no first class, second class upper. Even with the second class upper, they didn't write my name where it was supposed to be. And they waited. You know when they mentioned my name? You see the last group, the past group. Great. That is where my name was mentioned. I don't know where I got that courage from and walked on that stage. But walking on that stage, I was in tears, deep down. And I told myself, the first thing I said was, God, you have failed me. Because going through all these 4 years, dedicating my time, focusing, all the extracurricular activities people were enjoying, I wasn't doing it. Then at a point where you need to glorify me, this is where the greatest disappointment was. So I walked through, and the first thing I heard was that, just end your life, go and commit suicide. And that was what was in my mind. So while sitting there, people were rejoicing. The disheartening one was when my colleagues came to ask me why. So I was like, Lovely, I'm disappointed in you. You lied to me. Hey! So I was like, I will really commit suicide. I told myself I was really going to do that. And then I got to my room. My parents came to pick me up. They were trying to encourage me. I was like, you don't know how God has failed me. My 4 years in tertiary was hell. And verbal abuses, a whole lot, right? From a whole lot happened, and I was still focused. So at the end of that day, you expect the value for the struggles, for all the pains you went through. You have a value for it. So in the night, I just went to my bathroom, picked the knife, look at myself. I was like, I'm going to end it because I'm tired. Because I've struggled so much, I've focused so much. There were things I had to let go just to ensure that I make it through school. So I am going to end it. I picked the knife. I looked at myself. I was like, hey, so you're coming to die. So at the verge of stabbing myself, my phone started ringing. I said I'm not going to pick this call. My phone rang and rang and rang and rang. When I finally picked the call, this is what my pastor said. Lovia, I know you are disappointed, but God has better and greater plans for you. Do not do what you want to do. That day, I roamed the whole KUSC campus like a mad person. I was crying. I was giving God reasons why He has failed me. But at the end of the day, I'm sitting here today. I thank God for that.